They taught me how to erase traces. But that night, the city erased me first, leaving nothing but an echo in someone's cold eyes. Rain slid down the chrome edge of the Helix Dynamics Tower like mercury veins. The city pulsed beneath me, neon arteries, glass lungs, everything alive but choking. My boots skidded once, twice, and then caught the grip of wet metal. "Come on," I muttered, breath frosting in the air. "Freedom's not doors without locks, it's being the damn key." The words were ridiculous, but they kept me moving. They sounded better than "run faster before he finds you." Behind me, the hum of drones sharpened. 3 of them. Tracking models, with neuroscent filters that could smell adrenaline through concrete. I ducked behind a vent, flicking open my wristpad. Static lines danced across the screen. "Mirror protocol, activate," I whispered. The world flickered. My reflection fractured into 3 versions, one running east, one leaping over the next roof, one kneeling here with me. The cameras would see all 3. Only I knew which one was real. Somewhere below, an elevator hummed upward. Avery. Of course he'd take the elevator. The man hunted like he owned the pace of time. I bolted across the rooftop, shoes slapping puddles that reflected the city like shards of an inverted sky. Every step echoed through the metallic ribs of the tower. My pulse synced with the storm, erratic, alive, stupidly human. When the first drone swooped low, I ducked under the rail and kicked at the panel. It burst open, wires sparking like nerves. I jammed a transmitter inside. "Say cheese." The drone's eye blinked red, then white, then blank. Feedback looped. It spiraled upward, collided with its twin, and both exploded in a short, brilliant flash. The smell of ozone hit before the sound did. And then, he was there. A silhouette at the opposite edge of the roof. Tall, still, coat swaying in the wind like a slow heartbeat. His voice cut through the rain. "Running gets you nowhere, Chris." The audacity of that calm tone made my teeth clench. "Standing gets you shot," I called back, forcing a grin that felt like broken glass. Avery tilted his head. I couldn't see his eyes from here, but I didn't need to. They were always the same shade of clinical blue, like surgical steel before the cut. He didn't chase. Of course he didn't. Avery never chased, he waited until the world folded in around you. I ran again. More from spite than strategy. Down the side hatch, metal stairs slick with rain. My lungs burned, and the taste of rust sat heavy on my tongue. The exit door led into a maintenance corridor, all cold light and hollow echoes. I caught my reflection in the glass panel, 3 faces again, blurred, wet, scared. I smirked at the middle one. Still pretty for a ghost. Down 2 flights. Security grid offline, temporarily, thanks to my earlier hack. I could feel the heat of the tracking systems rebooting, crawling up my spine like a hand. When I reached the basement level, the air smelled of oil and static. Perfect. The tech parking zone stretched before me, rows of company cars lined up like obedient soldiers under sterile white light. The floor gleamed so clean it mirrored the ceiling. Every reflection shimmered with that same rhythmic flicker, like the city breathing. I slipped behind a dark sedan, popped the trunk, and fished a black box from my pocket. Inside was the gift Avery had left me 3 months ago, a GPS tracker hidden in a fake cigarette case. I'd kept it as a joke. Tonight, it would be a punchline. I attached a microcharge, pressed my thumb to arm it. Goodbye, daddy issues. The explosion was small but satisfying. The car alarms screamed like wounded beasts. I sprinted to the next vehicle, sleek, matte black, Avery's own signature model. Figures he'd park it front and center like a trophy. I bypassed the lock with a manual override. 10 seconds. The engine purred awake, smooth and arrogant, just like its owner. As I drove toward the exit ramp, I scrawled a quick tag on the glass wall with the nanopin from my wrist strap. Too clean to catch me. The letters glowed gold against the cold white light, like a laugh that refused to fade. The ramp gate loomed ahead, red lights pulsing. My heart raced in time with them. "Open sesame," I muttered, flicking another command through the wristpad. The gate stuttered, then lifted just enough for me to slide the car under. Rain hammered the windshield. The city stretched open, wet asphalt, endless glass, the hum of a billion wires under skin. For the first time in months, I almost believed in the idea of free. Almost. Because even over the roar of the engine, I could feel his presence. Avery wasn't the type you saw in mirrors. He was the silence between reflections. I turned a corner, tires slicing through puddles, and hit the comm switch. Static. The network was already tightening. His doing. Predictable bastard, I said, tapping the steering wheel. In the back seat something rolled, a small metallic click. My pulse jumped. I reached back and found it. An old cassette player. Not mine. The label read in my own handwriting, "Don't forget to laugh." I froze. He must have planted it. When I pressed play, a burst of static, then laughter, my own voice, recorded and looped. That was impossible. My reflection in the rearview smiled just a fraction too wide. The car swerved. I yanked it back into line, breath short, skin cold. "Okay," I whispered. "Now you're just showing off, Avery." By the time I pulled into the side alley of the abandoned sector, my nerves were stretched thin. I killed the engine, stepped into the rain, and waited for my breathing to catch up with my thoughts. He was probably watching. I raised my hand to the nearest building's mirrored facade, letting my fingertips touch the slick surface. My reflection rippled, then multiplied. 3 of me grinned back, out of sync. "That's right," I said softly. "Try catching all of us." And somewhere, not in sound but in the static of the city itself, I heard his voice. "Challenge accepted." Minutes later. Helix Tower rooftop. Avery stood alone in the rain. His car was gone. The roof half flooded. The golden graffiti glowed faintly on the glass. Too clean to catch me. He tilted his head, rain sliding down his face. In the mirrored facade opposite him, a figure appeared. Chris, grinning, waving. But the window he waved from didn't exist. The reflection dissolved, leaving only Avery's faint smirk. "Let's see how long you stay free," he murmured. He turned away, boots leaving clean, deliberate prints that the rain couldn't wash away. The capsule smelled like warmed plastic and disinfectant. A cross between a hospital and a coffin with Wi-Fi. I lay inside it, knees bent to my chest, watching the dim blue strip light hum above my face. Every breath fogged the narrow glass panel over my head. The ventilation rattled like the machine was trying to breathe for me and giving up halfway. "You're safe here," I told myself. For at least 5 minutes. My wristpad glowed faintly, numbers streaming down its screen. I was rewriting my genetic marker code, turning my own DNA into a glitch. Each sequence I corrupted made the system hesitate before labeling me Omega, property of Helix Dynamics. Come on," I muttered, tapping the pad faster. My thumb ached from pressure. A warning beep. Then another. The network responded. Access flagged. Sequence mismatch detected. I froze. That tone. The soft ping of closing doors. Shit. One after another, the safety routes I'd built across the city began to flicker out. My entire web of backups, bank credits, safehouse access codes, fake IDs, turning gray. He was cutting me off. Avery wasn't chasing me. He was drying the net, slowly, methodically, with that surgeon's precision of his. I punched the side of the capsule and crawled out. The narrow aisle between pods echoed with the dull clatter of my boots. Half the capsules were sealed, their occupants snoring through dreams of being somewhere else, people running from debts, addictions, families. The other half were empty, glowing faintly blue like unclaimed coffins. The floor vibrated under my feet, low and steady. A pulse from the network grid beneath the city. I adjusted my jacket hood, pushed through a curtain of hanging wires, and stepped into the alley behind the capsule hotel. Rain again. Always rain. The alley walls sweated water and moss. Old vent pipes rose from the ground like organ pipes, wheezing warm air. I found the public terminal embedded in the brick, cracked screen, faint hum, and jacked in with my wrist cable. My heartbeat synced with the loading bar. "Let's see what you killed, Avery," I whispered. The digital map of my safe routes appeared. Thousands of bright dots across the city, lines of travel, secure caches. They started dimming one by one, like lights in a burning building. "Oh, come on." Another message blinked onto the terminal, anonymous. "Congratulations, Chris. You've successfully trapped yourself in a clean room." I let out a sharp laugh. "Cute. You learned sarcasm. I should have installed a sense of humor patch on you." I typed back a single line before wiping the message. "Keep cleaning. Eventually you'll scrub yourself out." The connection stuttered again. I felt the vibration in my wrist, like a micropulse beneath the skin. The network's heartbeat. My skin prickled with static, dry and itchy. And then, just for a moment, the screen flickered. The terminal camera feed turned on by itself. My reflection stared back. But something was wrong. My mouth hadn't moved, yet the reflection smiled. "Don't do that," I said quietly. The reflection tilted its head. Then stop hiding. The voice was his. Low, calm, threaded with that unnerving patience. I jerked the cable from the wall. The feed died instantly, leaving only my heartbeat in my ears. Great, I muttered. Now he's learned ventriloquism. Back inside the capsule, I started purging my donor gene records. Each deletion cost me another sliver of anonymity, but it was worth it. I could feel Helix's network pushing back, trying to rewrite me faster than I could erase myself. Every few seconds, a flash of memory slipped through with the code: white halls, rows of Omega. Units plugged into their chairs, heads tilted back as their neural data fed the servers. I remembered standing there once, wearing the same blank collar, pretending not to feel my spine hum with the current. They called us stabilizers. We made systems more efficient. We made people replaceable. I tasted metal just thinking about it. A vibration broke through my haze, soft, like a moth's wing against glass. Chris. The voice came through my earpiece. Rough, low. Moth. Still breathing? I asked. Barely. Your friend's locking everything down. You pissed off the wrong cleaner. Don't call him my friend. You're both in the same file now, Moth said, words quick, nervous. Helix issued a dual order. Liquidation. I sat up. Wait, what? You and him. Same target list. No retrieval, just delete. The sound of his breathing crackled through static. Whatever game you're playing, end it. They don't keep cleaners alive once they cross the line. The line cut out. For a long moment the capsule felt too small to hold me. My throat burned with the sharp dryness of recycled air. Of course, I whispered. Of course they'd burn both of us. Helix didn't care about loyalty, only the illusion of it. The moment a tool learned to think, it became a threat. I reached for the cracked mirror above the sink, running my thumb along its edge. The reflection rippled, like oil. And there he was again. Avery's reflection, half transparent, half mocking. Get out of my head, I said. His voice carried no echo, only certainty. You're not the only one who can use mirrors. Cute trick, I said, forcing a smirk. Doesn't suit you though. You're too literal for mysticism. His reflection blinked once. And you're too proud for loneliness. That one hit like static under the skin. The reflection dissolved before I could reply, leaving the mirror empty except for my own exhausted face. I turned back to my wristpad. Every route on my map was gone now. Avery's silent masterpiece. The net was clean. No noise, no mess. Just me, isolated, exactly where he wanted. A shiver ran through my spine, not entirely from fear. Maybe a little admiration. Maybe something worse. Patience, I murmured, repeating the word like a curse. He's got too much of it. Outside, rain began again, gentler this time, as if the city was trying to whisper over the static. I pulled my hood up and stepped out of the capsule for the last time. The hallway lights flickered. The air smelled of burnt ozone. I thought I heard something moving behind the walls, a hum of electricity, a heartbeat not mine. He was still out there, somewhere in the network, tracing me without moving a step. In the alley, puddles mirrored the faint glow of the Helix towers. I watched my reflection ripple in the water until it split into two. One tired, one smirking. Let's see whose patience runs out first, I said softly. A single message blinked across my wristpad, unsigned. Try not to disappear too quickly. The city's just getting interesting. I couldn't help it. I laughed. Quietly. Bitterly. Then I vanished back into the rain. The elevator dies between heartbeats. 1 second we're rising. Glass walls swallowing the city into a smear of rain and neon. The next, everything jerks hard enough to rattle my teeth. The carriage shudders, lights strobe, and then the hum sinks to a mechanical sigh. Silence floods in. Clean. Absolute. The kind of silence that makes you hear the wet click of your own swallow. My palms are slick. I rub them on my jeans and feel the tremor anyway. Breathe, I tell myself. The air tastes like metal and damp dust, like the vent above us has been exhaling someone else's panic for years. Across from me, Avery doesn't move. He stands with one hand loose at his side, the other bracing against the rail. Rain dots still glitter in his hair from the rooftop. The emergency light paints his face in pale pulses, like he's being measured and found the exact size of control. You're a good hacker, he says, as if we're discussing the weather. I bark a laugh that wants to be a cough. You're a boring hunter. He considers that, the ghost of a smile at the corner of his mouth. Want me to prove otherwise? The elevator ticks as heat leaves the machinery. Far below, a cable hums, a bass note I feel in my ankles more than I hear. My chest tightens, not with danger I can outrun, but with the shape of a room that has only one door, and a man who knows how to stand in it. Don't, I say. And I'm not sure if I mean don't prove it or don't move at all. He doesn't push. He never does. It's infuriating, the mercy of restraint. He reaches for nothing violent, just the small emergency cabinet, pulls out a single seal water pouch, pops it and holds it out. The plastic is crinkled, cold. My fingers touch his for half a second, and I feel how steady he is. How I am not. I press the pouch to my mouth. The thin straw chills my lips, the water tastes faintly of storage and chlorine, then clean. I realize I've been holding my breath since the jolt. My pulse finds a rhythm that isn't sprinting. No theatrics, no speech, just the simplest kind of help, handed over like a fact. Thanks, I say, begrudgingly human. You're welcome, he says. And the way he says it makes it sound like of course. The glass on 3 sides shows the shaft, a vertical autopsy of metal and shadow. On the 4th side the doors, a seam that refuses to admit it's a boundary. In the corner, a little panel with a speaker, and a button that does nothing. I jab it anyway. It rewards me with a burst of static and, of all things, music. Shine like a pearl. The city's favorite swirl. I squint. Is that a shampoo ad? The speaker hisses. Luxa luxa, for hair that... Kill it, I say, and the absurd jingle cuts off with a click. Silence returns, smug. Avery's eyes dip to the ceiling hatch. You're going to try that? Obviously. I wipe my hands, crouch, and test the grip on the handrail. The hatch is old school, hex bolts and stubbornness. I brace my heels on the rail and push up, shoulders protesting. The panel gives half an inch, then another, then stops. The smell up there is stronger, wet dust and long ago lubricant. My thighs tremble. My heartbeat tries to climb out through my throat. Need a hand? He asks. No, I say, because it's the only thing I know how to say to him. The panel refuses to surrender. I drop back down, landing harder than I mean to. The floor is a perfect dark mirror. In it, my reflection looks like someone else. Someone cornered. I meet his eyes anyway. Avery steps once, and just that, just occupying the rectangle between me and the doors, redraws the map of the room. He doesn't touch me. He doesn't have to. He is the physics problem where every vector ends at no move, I say. He doesn't. The elevator's stillness grows a spine. Somewhere far up the shaft, a relay clicks. Somewhere below, something groans. I can almost feel the building decide whether we are part of it or an error to expel. Panic, I tell myself, is inefficient. The lie is tidy. My hands are not. I think of the capsule hotel's blue light, the moss-slick alley, the terminal's reflected grin that wasn't mine. I think of Moth's voice, tinny with fear, dual order, liquidation. I think of Na-Ray's neat signature on a file that makes people vanish like a good accounting trick. I think of Avery's patience, the way it wraps around me like an invisible cord. Captivity, I realize, is when honesty starts inside you. Fine, I say to the air. You win. For now. He tilts his head. This isn't winning. Oh. I swipe hair from my forehead. My fingers come away damp with sweat that isn't just sweat. What is it then? A teachable moment? A way to see you without your exits. I snort. Do you stare at hurricanes after you cut the ocean? The emergency light flickers. For a breath, everything is black, the kind of black that swallows detail and leaves only outline. In that outline, his shoulders are a door. My lungs forget the trick we learned 2 minutes ago. He notices. Sit, he says softly. I don't want to obey. I slide down the wall anyway, more to make gravity shut up than to listen. The cold glass through my jacket bleeds into my back. The floor's mirror gives me 2 extra versions of myself, one with clenched jaw, one with eyes too bright. Avery lowers himself to a crouch, not too close. 4 count in, 6 count out. You think I'm a metronome? I think you're good at following patterns you choose. Choose this one. Annoyingly, my body listens before my pride does. 4 in, 6 out. The edge of the room unclenches by a hair. Outside the doors comes the first hint of what waits beyond the glass, the whisper of boots on polished floor, a pause, a retreat. Security, not reckless, trained. Waiting for the order that turns us from jammed cargo into objectives. Helix, I say, almost to myself, loves a clean problem set. They love the pretense of clean, he answers. You would know. He doesn't take the bait. Chris. What? You're shaking. I'm improvising. He stands. The motion is slow, telegraphed, and yet I still flinch. He doesn't comment on it. He crosses to the cabinet again, pulls a second water pouch, sets it near my knee like an offering to a skittish animal. Then he leans on the rail, watching the doors as if he can hear beyond them what I can only imagine. Why save it? I ask. Save what? The gentleness, I say. And the word tastes strange in my mouth. Why waste it on me? He considers. The emergency light keeps time. Because the building took enough from you tonight. I don't need to take more. The line lands in a part of me I thought was welded shut. I make a face and look away. Stop making sense. Noted. A burst of static cracks the speaker again. A different voice this time. Tinny, officious, the cadence of a script. Helix Logistics acknowledges your maintenance issue. Please remain calm in the carriage. Assistance is on the way. Assistance, I mutter. That's one word for it. Avery shifts his weight. They won't open those doors until they've stacked the corridor with contingencies. I climb to my feet. My legs are reliable again, if resentful. So we don't give them an opening. You already tried the hatch. I flash him a tight grin. I have other tricks. I'm sure, he says, and it's not sarcasm. I peel back the corner of the useless control panel. Underneath, a forest of wires, the color code familiar as an old scar. I bridge to with the copper tongue of my wristpad's service key. Sparks nip my fingertips. A high tone hums. The elevator's diagnostic searching for a story it likes. Tell them you're empty, I murmur, coaxing. Tell them you're just a glass box full of air. The system ponders, then declines. Polite as a banker. Denied. Occupied. Too rude, I say. Behind me, Avery moves the way he always does when something sharp is coming. Just enough to be between me and it, no heroics, just geometry. The gesture lights every fuse in my nerves. I don't know whether to shove him or thank him. A distant click rides the shaft like a nail down a chalkboard. The cable shivers. In the door's seam, a sliver of brighter light appears and vanishes. Someone out there is testing keys. I smell the faint bite of ozone. The city is a living thing pressing its ear to our little aquarium. Chris. Avery says, voice low. Look at me. No, look at me. I do, because I always do. It's stupid. The emergency light chooses that moment to steady, and his face resolves into careful lines and a focus that feels like it could cut glass without scratching it. 4 in, he says. 6 out. Don't. Now. I draw the air in, cool and dusty, feel it scuff my throat. I let it leave longer than my fear wants, through teeth that keep wanting to clench. The cables thrum and my bloods thrum, stop fighting, and sit next to each other like neighbors forced to share a bench. Somewhere upshaft, metal kisses metal. Somewhere outside, boots return. This time they don't retreat. I angle my shoulder toward the panel again. If I jump the signal and fake a fire code, he shakes his head once. They'll vent the shaft. Fun. No. The speaker coughs, then offers as if from a memory of a different city, a cheerful jingle, Luxa Luxa. I slap the panel. If I die to a shampoo commercial, I'm haunting this building. You won't, he says. You sound very sure. I am. The certainty is a rope in the dark I didn't know I was reaching for. On the other side of the doors a new sound, hard plastic against steel. Not keys. Passcards. A brief, efficient sequence. Test, fail, test, accept. Helix's version of a knock. I meet his eyes. He nods once. Nothing like comfort and everything like a plan. Outside, a voice we can't quite hear says words we already understand. Liquidation, not retrieval. Avery's mouth barely moves. Listen to me, he whispers. And the calm threads through the tight places like a needle. And breathe even. The light goes steady. The seam glows. The first lock clicks. The city holds its breath with me. And the doors begin to open. The doors began to part on a white weaponized calm, then coughed, hesitated, and slid back. Avery's hand was already on the auxiliary panel. False fire protocol, he said. And a service hatch. He bridged 2 lines with my service key, lied to the building that we were smoke, and not people. and a narrow plate beside the frame clicked open like an apology. We dropped into the spine while Helix stacked contingencies on the wrong floor. The shaft breathed heat. The city swallowed us whole. Under the city the air ran warm and close, a mechanical breath that tasted like tin and old rain. Service tunnels spidered away from the elevator core, low and ribbed, the light. A wavering aqua that made our skin look like we'd been filmed underwater. The transformers hummed in long, steady notes. The floor vibrated, a purr big enough to curl the whole city inside it. We moved swift and quiet. Avery first, because of course, and me a step behind. Because someone had to watch the angles. The adrenaline from the elevator hadn't burned off, it had condensed into something sharper, a kind of patience I could wear over my fear like a jacket. "Hand," he said. I frowned. "Excuse me?" "Hand," he repeated, without looking back. I glanced down. The skin across my palm, where I'd dragged it over a rooftop grill hours and lifetimes ago, had split open along the crease. The cut had gone gummy with grime and rain. I hadn't noticed. That infuriated me, which was easier to feel than the ache. He shrugged out of his outer jacket with a crisp motion, tore a strip from the lining, and caught my wrist before I could think of a reason not to let him. His fingers were practical. Steady. He wrapped the cloth twice, snug, but not punishing. A pressure that told the shaking inside me to wait its turn. The smell off his sleeve was rain and scorched fabric. Elevator fire suppression had kissed him and left a mark. "You're always this serious?" I muttered. "When a fugitive who steals my car is within arm's reach," he said. "Yes. I prefer liberates." That would be inaccurate. He tied the knot and released me like a problem solved. We kept moving, stepping over cable bundles and skirting condensation slicks that turned the concrete into black ice. At the next junction, the tunnel widened, and the hum deepened into a feeling in the teeth. "Helix's service spine," I said. "We follow this. We hit the cathedral." "Cathedral," he repeated, almost amused. "You'll see." We cut left, then right, a geometry of access codes and old habits. Twice he paused, ear angled toward a duct, body sharpening into yes-no. Twice, we waited out a patrol drone's lazy drift before returning to the rhythm of steps, breath, hum. The city above was a storm of policy. Down here, it was animal. At the final bulkhead I jacked my wristpad into a plate that said in tasteful font, "Authorized maintenance only." The plate had never met me. I huffed a laugh and coaxed its trust open, one handshake at a time. The door sighed. Heat rolled over us, dry and alive. "Welcome," I said, and stepped into the nave. Cathedral wasn't a metaphor, it was architecture. Columns of server racks rose like organ pipes, blackened glass, blinking in constellations. The floor was a sheet of tempered transparency, and under it, cable rivers braided and unbraided, pulsing faintly with diagnostics. The air smelled of ozone and dust baked sterile. Light fell from a vaulted ceiling in bars, refracting through containment glass until it moved like water. Avery took it in the way he took everything, once, completely. I saw the flicker in his eyes, the quiet shift from terrain to system. He was an engineer in a hunter's suit. "Your plan," he said. "Blindfold the giant," I answered. "Helix thinks in lines. I think in loops." I dropped to a knee beside a pedestal where the floor hit a service port beneath the idea of perfect design. The panel popped with a push. The nest inside was a child's dream of forbidden candy, fiber strands, copper tongues, ribbon cables with cereal teeth. I pulled a coil of mirrored wire from my pack and fed it into the heart. "Reflective loop," I said, the words smoothing some corroded part of my throat. I bounced the core's own signal back at itself, off-tempo, in slightly wrong mirrors. "The cameras will see me everywhere. The authorization protocols will see me nowhere." "Slit scan for a mind. So the network is flooded with you," he said. "Echoes of me," I corrected, and couldn't help adding, "I'm not that generous." He almost smiled. "Good." The first test poured down the racks like a mild rain. Status bars flickered, indexes spun. Ghost me shimmered to life across. A wall of diagnostic glass, 16 versions mid-stride, mid-blink, mid-smirk, all wearing my same not-afraid face. I watched myself move out of sync. It was dizzying, like finding out the mirror had been practicing your habits in private. "Pretty," Avery said. I smirked. "We calling my code pretty now?" I said pretty, he corrected. "Not clean. Say clean, and I walk." "Noted." He moved to the opposite pedestal. hands in the cabinets like a piano teacher's, never forcing, always exact. When a feeder line flickered warning orange, he reached back for my spare stabilizer without looking. I slapped it into his palm with a speed that surprised even me. He soldered a replacement in 3 breaths and snapped the panel shut. We worked like we'd done this forever. We had not. The first drone came in quiet, a whisper of air displaced by the calculation of harm. It slid from the high rafters and glided a perimeter with the lazy confidence of a predator that ate with a schedule. Its lens made no sound, but I swear I felt it on my skin. Avery didn't look up. He set the stabilizer down gently. When the drone crossed a pillar's shadow, he stepped into the gap, lifted, grabbed, twisted. No theatrics, the motion was a sentence without commas. The drone's rotors hiccuped. He lowered it onto the glass and did something quick to its jaw that made the light go sleeping blue. Elegant, I said before my pride could tackle my admiration. Efficient, he corrected. Your turn. He meant the code. I pretended he meant the drone. We trade, I said. But I don't fetch. You fetched my car. That was borrowing. That was theft. Semantics, I said, and slid a second loop into the bay. The cathedral dimmed. The self-underworld multiplied. On the glass wall, a dozen Chris became 40, then 60, a halo of wrong timings that made the brain itch. The core stuttered, tried to re-index me, failed with a polite error. Object inconsistent. Lose me, I whispered. Lose all of me. A ping threaded the air, not ours. A private line opened. The sound of it was precise, like a heel on marble. My spine knew the cadence before my brain did. Mr. Kim, a woman's voice said, and even over bone conduction it felt cool on the skin. And, Mr. Kavanagh, nah-ray. Avery didn't answer, neither did I. She did not require either of us to cooperate to be present. Christopher, she said, because she could take the long version of a name and make it sound like a file number. Your technique is familiar. I always did worry that giving you access to the acoustic mirrors would have consequences. Worry, I said softly, gives you skin. Skin is a liability, she answered, and the irony of hearing that from an entity, who had turned mine into a license, did a small, sharp thing in my chest. Mr. Kavanagh, she continued, the pivot a blade so thin you might mistake it for air. We can resolve this to mutual advantage. Return him. I will restore your personal ledger. The discrepancies from the Myeongdo operation will vanish. Avery's attention didn't waver from the instrument cluster. Only his pulse moved. A shift at his throat that no one would see if they weren't looking for it, and I was. Myeongdo. A ghost name for a cleaning that had spread beyond contract and taken collateral with it. Unofficial. Illegal. A stain scrubbed into silk so hard the fabric thinned. You keep receipts, I said to Nare. To fill the space where something dangerous might bloom. Helix keeps order, she replied. And keeps those who keep order, clean. I stared at Avery's profile, the neat economy of his grip on a torque driver. The focus that had saved me in the elevator by refusing to become a weapon. He didn't dignify her with a reply. His silence was a wall she couldn't hang a portrait on. For the record, I said, because I couldn't stand the feel of the offer in the room, I'm not a returnable item. For the record, she said. You never were an item, Christopher. You are an asset. The loop pulsed, and for a heartbeat my echoes broke rank. One of me stepped forward and, only I could see it, hesitated. A tremor cut the far aisle. A second drone slithered down, this one armored, the muzzle of a shock array unfolding like a polite yawn. It took Avery exactly 0 seconds to track the approach. He straightened, shoulders sliding into a line that made some part of me say duck. Too late. The drone spat a white arc across the aisle. In the instant my body weighed choices, he chose for me, his hand on my chest, a shove that knocked me out of the beam. The arc hit him instead. The smell of burning insulation bloomed, sharp and sweet, flooding my mouth until I could taste the color of it. His coat sleeve blackened in a scallop of heat. The skin beneath would welt later, quiet and stubborn. I landed hard, wires biting my palms through the bandage. The echo field hiccuped, my faces hiccuped, then steadied. I swallowed a knife that wanted to be concern, and made it into sarcasm. Welcome to the mess. His mouth ghosted a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Thought I'd try it on. Then he was moving. Faster than the drone could re-aim. He slid low, pushed off the glass with a palm, caught the drone at the shoulder joint, and snapped the power harness with a quick wrench that made my wrist ache in sympathy. The drone died with an annoyed chirp and thumped to the floor. The light above us flickered, came back. The smell stayed. Pretty, I muttered. Fine, elegant, efficient, he corrected again. And then, quieter. Your loop is working. It was. Across the main status pane, the core's object tracker jittered like it had had too much coffee and a bad dream. Red tags, Chris K, Chris K, Chris K. Stacked and slid, then vanished. The cathedral's lenses hunted. The system wrote me into 100 places and lost me in each. Time to blind the giant, I said. Drop it to slit scan. Force it into blind mode. Once it's functionally sightless, I can slip a clean erase. Me, every Omega ledger, every licensing trace. Hard reset of a moral failure. Avery's brows tipped. An admission of the scale. Go. I went. The sequence was not elegant. It was a fist of numbers and an apology disguised as a knife. I punched it into the core's nervous system and watched the world tilt. Lights rippled down the aisles. The transparent floor became briefly not there. My stomach did a mean trick. Then, like a swimmer laying face down to float, the core eased into the blind. It knew the world existed and could not recognize any of it. The cathedral exhaled. Fans changed their music. The echo field hit a shimmer point, pretty enough to be a prayer, then stabilized to a soft rain of me. Almost, I whispered. Fingers flying. Almost, almost. The wall lit up with a message I had hoped to never see. Purge privilege required. Cleaner ID. I froze. The words steadied. The system, suddenly very polite, to erase licensed Omega ledgers, a cleansing act must be authorized by a registered cleaner's identity token. Somewhere, Nare smiled without moving any muscles. Christopher, she said sweetly, the heart of order is consent. You must be cleaned by one who is clean. Don't do poetry, I snapped, because the room had started to tip again. Avery watched the line with a face that had learned too many ways to not be a face. Options, he said. You, I said. And the syllable felt like a betrayal even in my own mouth. You're the key. You touch this and the core believes the purge is lawful. It dissolves the ledgers. It dissolves me. He didn't glance at me. And you, and every registered Omega, I said. Accounts gone. Contracts without anchors. It's a legal earthquake. Nare's voice sighed in our bones. It is also, Mr. Kavanaugh, a career. You choose which detail matters. He lifted his wrist, thumb hovering an inch over the pad. And in that inch I saw 1,000 rooms he had stood in, choosing how much of himself to leave behind. The burn on his sleeve pulsed with heat not yet finished. The offer of a clean ledger sat between us like a gleaming machine with a blade he could pretend not to notice. You always were neat, I said, ugly with something I didn't want to name. This would be the neatest thing you ever did. He looked at me then, properly. No pity, no theater. A study in intent. You built a mirror, he said. Don't be surprised that it shows you. The line on the wall pulsed again, patient, inevitable. Purge privilege required, cleaner ID. In the far aisle, a third drone's shadow slid over glass like a hand testing a door. The heat off the racks rose a degree. Sweat prickled my neck, tasted like metal. Under my feet the cable rivers shivered, 1,000 little snakes changing their dream. Choose, Nare murmured, soft as dust. The cathedral waited, lights flickering like stained glass catching a storm. Avery set his thumb against the pad. And everything in me said don't. The heart of the system is colder than logic. The core room is a white cube that eats sound. The first step inside swallows my boot heel. The second erases the echo of the first. The floor looks like ice, slick and depthless, and the walls are matte, mirrors that return my outline without committing to my face. When I breathe, the air lifts against my teeth like snow that forgot how to fall. Avery keys the seal behind us. The door goes from visible to suggestion to gone. Don't get dramatic, I tell myself. My voice brushes the walls and disappears, like it doesn't want to be recorded here. He doesn't speak. He moves to the console set into the far wall, no buttons, just a slit where the room can taste the person who dares to touch it. The cube's light has no source, it just is. I step closer and feel the temperature drop another degree, as if consent requires frost. On the wall above the slit, a single line waits in patient gray. Purge privilege required. Cleaner ID. We made it past the cathedral's lenses and the drone's appetites. We blindfolded the giant. But the law the giant obeys is older than cameras. To erase the ledgers, to actually break Helix's claim on people like me, the system wants a ritual. A licensed cleaner, thumbed in, identity offered, the old story of order told in bloodless form. Avery doesn't sigh. He just lifts his hand. Wait, I say, too fast. He sets his thumb to the reader. The room accepts him with a small, hungry hum. Gray becomes white. Cleanse, Avery K. Confirm? He doesn't look at me. Maybe he can't. Maybe he knows that if he does, I'll see it. The line where he already chose. Don't, I say, and it comes out sharper than I mean. You don't get to decide what I am. Not cleanly, not like this. Someone has to, he says, still watching the white. And I don't? The cold eats the volume out of my voice, makes it sound smaller. I'm the one with the collar history. I'm the one whose name sits on 1,000 invoices as stabilizer, optimized. His jaw tightens. This isn't about... It's exactly about that, I snap. You always decide. You decide when to wait, when to move, when to be gentle, when to be a wall. You do it so quietly, people call it mercy. That one lands. A muscle ticks in his cheek. Chris, he says. And my name is a hand coaxing a skittish animal. If this purges the ledgers, then it purges them. It doesn't need you. It doesn't require... Me? It doesn't require me? I laugh. The cube absorbs it, metabolizes it into a smear of cold. How convenient. On the inner channel, a thread of silk slides under the door and winds around the bones of the room. Mr. Kavanagh, Ray murmurs, voice as smooth as the mirror walls. Confirm. We will honor your act, and the ledger you fear will be restored to light. Imagine it, your record, immaculate. Avery's thumb hovers, still uncertain. She softens further. Like the cube leans toward her. Christopher, for once, allow an adult to close the door. I move without deciding to. My hand finds the emergency port, because even gods of order have a human compliance panel, and I jack in. The cube notices, then pretends it doesn't. The console gives me a maintenance view, thin and mean, the equivalent of you are seen, not heard. I don't need to be heard. I need to be fast. Override, I whisper. My fingers are stiff with cold. The pads slip on the glass, leave no trace. Protocol exchange, target token, route swap. The cursor balks, then wavers, then slides. Avery's eyes flick to me. Chris, don't, I say. If someone erases me, it's me. The confirmation line flickers. Cleanse, Avery K. Target, Chris K. Confirm? Stop. His voice is low and clean. The same tone he used to show me how to breathe. This isn't your death to write. It was always going to be mine to read, I say. My chest shakes. I don't know if it's the cold or the choice. I refuse to live because you got tidy with your conscience. He steps to me. Not fast. Just an inevitability in a human body. His hand closes around my wrist, not hard but unarguable. Warmth peels off his skin like heat kept just for this. The cube wakes up. The mirrors are not mirrors anymore. They flare. Light slides across them like water over glass, images shear and recombine. In one, I watch him pin my wrist and hate him for it. In another, he grabs my shoulder and laughs, and I hate him less. In a third, we've never met. The cube is a lens, and we're the negatives it holds up to see which future develops. Let go, I say. No. If the system wants a sacrifice, I hiss. Then take the right one. It's not a sacrifice. It's a correction. He squeezes. The pressure is an anchor thrown through ice. And I will not allow you to be the cost of my correction. The line on the wall blinks, patient as a metronome. Confirm? Naray's voice turns crisp. Deals are for when men hesitate. Mr. Kavanagh. Confirm. You're wasting my time. The cube tightens. A white hum builds in the bones of the room, the color of anesthetic and lost names. I can smell the ghost of alcohol under the ozone, a scrubbed clean scent like a clinic with better art. I wrench my hand, twist the protocol in the same motion, and jam my thumb onto the reader. For half a heartbeat the system believes me. Cleanse, Chris K. Confirm? Avery's other hand catches mine. 2 thumbs on the slit. 2 names in the mouth of an algorithm that wants a single clean story. The mirrors riot. I see us in suits in a courtroom, lying with our hands on books. I see us in an alley with rain. Stitching our faces shut, I see us older, softer, arguing about nothing over a burnt omelet. I see us as strangers in a subway car, missing each other by 2 seconds until the city decides to be kind. I see us as what we are, a hunter who learned how to stop, and a runner who learned what to stop for. I don't say any of it. Compromise, he says, voice not much louder than breath, but edged. Split it. What? The cube eats syllables, I almost don't hear him. Have the right, he says, and somehow makes bureaucracy sound like grace. The system wants a licensed act. It wants your echo. It knows me as lawful and you as present. Let it take my key, and your signature. It doesn't accept halves, I say. Then we teach it fractions. Nare laughs, one small sharp sound. How charming. He wants to re-educate law. Avery doesn't look away from me. Chris. This time my name isn't a coax. It's an offer with room in it. We can collapse the legal scaffolding without giving it a body. The hum rises, the pitch finding a line in my skull and plucking it. The floor shifts, not physically, but in the way certainty does before a jump. I think of the capsule's blue light, the elevator's quiet mercy, the cathedral's stained glass of data. I think of the ledger with my name burned into it 1,000 times over, and the boys and girls plugged into chairs, learning to be valuable by vanishing. Split it, I say. If it breaks onto me. His mouth twitches. If it breaks with me. He lets go of my wrist. Not to surrender, to align. On 3, he says. Everything important happens on 2, I mutter, because if I don't joke I will have to pray. Then 2, he says. We press. His license token blooms through the reader like heat through frost. My echo signature locks onto it, overlays, argues, resolves. The cube sips, then drinks, then gulps. The mirrors flare so bright I see through my lids. The sound goes white, not silent, white, like fresh snow mending all noises into one wide breath. On the wall, the text changes shape. Cleanse. Kavanaugh, Chris. Mode, partitioned authority. Scope, Omega ledger. Total. Lawful basis, shared consent. Nare stops laughing. You can't, she starts. And then the cube interrupts, not with affection, but with compliance too pure to refuse. Execute. Avery says nothing. He looks at me. Do it, I say. We press again. The cube inhales the old world, and holds it. I feel it in my molars, in the nails of my toes, in the scar on my left wrist where Helix once trained a cuff. The white hum becomes a distant storm. The smell of ozone thickens, then peels like orange skin, leaving behind a clean medicinal sting. My ears cotton with pressure. Sound turns to wool, to cloud, to a blanket that wants to tuck me into a simpler shape. In the glass that is not glass, 100 ledgers open like mouths and spit out names. The tidy lines break their alignment. Numbers thoughtfully reconciled unreconcile. The algorithm that kept human beings inside neat cells learns in real time what it feels like to be uncolumned. Somewhere far above us, doors the size of policies unlock. Notifications blossom on desks where men in suites once believed the word asset could be ethical if typed gently. Contracts shed their signatures like snakeskin. Collared IDs flicker to blank. The cathedral that kept its choir immaculate loses its hymn. Nare's voice shreds. You burned the court protocols. Her composure hits the wall and slides. This is illegal. This voids everything, I whisper, because the white hum has turned very loud. The mirror to my left shows me as a static outline, then as a child with 2 bright eyes, then as the man I am, hand on a slit, making bad math willing to be good. The mirror to my right shows Avery in 3 cuts, the cleaner, the engineer, the person, who used his body to block lightning and then offered the same body to the law. The line on the wall races, then stops so hard I think the room will tip. Complete, the cube exhales. For a heartbeat the world pauses. The hum drops. The white recedes a little. My ears pop. I can hear my own breath again, ragged and unashamed. The mirrors calm. They don't lie, not exactly, they choose a version and hold it long enough to feel real. In them, I watch myself sway. In them, I watch him not let me fall. Status, Avery says, voice wrecked to a velvet rasp. I blink back the wet in my eyes, which the cube politely does not record. Omega ledgers, gone. Legal anchors, dissolved. Collars, I swallow. Collars are contracts without teeth. City? Loud, I say, and laugh breaks free, thin and bright. The city is going to be very loud. Nare breathes, then composes a new shape around the loss. You understood none of the consequences. We understood enough, I say. The words feel like stepping onto a bridge we just built behind us. Do you imagine you won? Her tone turns gentle in the way of knives wrapped in cloth. We still own the infrastructure. You crippled law. You did not touch steel. Law tells steel where to sleep, Avery says. He's not smiling. He isn't anything but present. It will wake confused. Charming, she says again. Good night, Mr. Kavanaugh. Mr. Kim. She disconnects with the click of a file done being read. My knees soften. The cube notes it by doing nothing to help. Avery reaches for me without making a production of it. His palm lands at my elbow, weighs me to the floor as if gravity asked his permission. We sit on the cold that pretends to be ice. For a moment, it's just our breath, the antiseptic ghost of alcohol, the soft sugar burn of ozone, and the fluffy, stuffed silence of new hearing. Remind me, I manage. Which one of us is boring? He coughs a laugh that scrapes him on the way out. The one who will have to wash the cathedral. Good, I say. I'm allergic to mops. His hand stays at my elbow a beat longer than necessary. When he takes it away, the air feels less anchored, like a boat remembering it floats. The cube's lights flicker. Please don't, I tell it. We just made you interesting. The flicker becomes a stutter. The hum returns. Not white this time but bruised, a sound of systems asked to do something new with old bones. Somewhere in the building, a surge chases itself through loops we braided wrong on purpose. The cube's edges fuzz, shadows discover corners again. I smell dust that has not moved in years tremble a little. Prelude to falling. Power routing, Avery says, pushing to his feet. We overloaded it with a partition handshake. Translation? We broke it creatively, he says, and there's humor in it, thin but real. A thin seam opens in the far wall. An auxiliary door we didn't ask for. A corridor waits beyond, narrow and mean, painted with the metallic tang of a room that keeps the chemicals it can't look at. The rewrite reserve. The place where Helix fixed mistakes by pretending they were opportunities. Out, he says. After you, I reply. Because honestly, if this is the last picture I want it to be his back, not my face in a mirror that keeps changing. We step into the reserve room. It is exactly what the cube is not, cramped, human-sized, lined with drawers that smell of spirit and cataloged sins. The lights here don't know about grace. They buzz. And because they buzz, I can breathe. Behind us the cube makes a sound like a whale that's learned to sing in a lake. The lights go from white to off. Dark eats the doorway then spills into the reserve room, turning the outlines into one soft quilt. We don't see which of us falls first. We don't see who catches who. We only hear the city, far away and everywhere, inhale. And then the whole building, very politely, stops. The sign over my door blinks once. Stubborn as a heartbeat, and then steadies into a soft amber. Too clean to catch me. The letters throw a warm smear onto the wet sidewalk, and the big front window, more mirror than glass at night, turns rain into a constellation that only this street remembers. Inside, my workshop smells like dust and solder. Shelves of old film cameras keep their private faces. The brass ones reflect the counterlight as if they're practicing sunrise. I'm learning the names of parts the city forgot. Sprockets, pressure plates, cloth shutters with a pulse. The floor creaks in the middle because floors should. The door has a spring that complains because doors should too. The register doesn't know my name. The utilities think the meter belongs to a laundromat that closed 10 years ago. When I look myself up, nobody blinks back. I exist like a negative in a dark room. Only certain lights can see me. I'm getting good at coffee. Not perfect. Good. The kettle's whistle is the smallest siren I'll ever answer. Too clean to catch me, I tell the sign as I climb a little ladder to tweak the ballast. That was never about a city. I tighten the screw. The ballast hum evens into contentment. It was about us. The bell on the door chirps. I don't turn. People come in for repairs, for rumors, for the feeling of being surrounded by objects that deserve to be touched slowly. I learn to let a hello take its time. Nice light, a voice says. The kind that can be calm without being cold. You wired it yourself? I don't drop the screwdriver. That feels like growth. In the window, the glass decides to be a mirror. The street outside becomes a watercolor, narrow lane, wet asphalt, a neon noodle shop across the way casting pink bones into the puddles. In the reflection, a man stands behind me. Tall, a dark jacket with a seam melted smooth on the right sleeve. There's a thin line on his cheek. The kind a day earns when it pokes you, and you refuse to bleed for it. He holds 2 paper cups. Steam curls from their mouths like speech bubbles trying to form. I climb down. We study each other indirectly. Through the window first, then in the real air, like adults. I thought you disappeared, I say. You erased me, he answers. Then I'm bad at my job. Or very good, he says. The corner of his mouth moves the way it does when he doesn't want to smile, and is considering forgiving himself for it. The door spring squeaks as the rain thickens outside. The sign's reflection settles across his shoulders like a shawl. Too clean to catch me. It fits him worse than it fits me, which is a relief. Moth said the city's quieter, I offer. Because I need to say something that isn't don't leave again. Courts are chewing their paperwork. Someone tried to auction the concept of an omega and got zeros for bids. Avery sets one cup on the counter, slides it toward me until the cardboard warms my fingertips. Caramel lingers at the mouth of the lid, sweet in the way a consequence can be if you choose it. Helix is still steel, he says. Law told it where to sleep, I answer, because I like quoting him back to himself. It's going to wake confused. He studies the shelves like he's been asked to inventory a new language. His burned seam glints when he shifts. You live here? I exist here, I say. Living is a stretch, but I'm doing reps. Moth? Comes around, sells me lies that want jobs as truths. I pay for the ones with good bones. I sip the coffee. My tongue approves. He says cleaners are ghosts right now. Too visible to be seen. Avery nods once. The line on his cheek is already softening. There's a tiredness in his eyes that isn't a warning, it's an admission. He puts his free hand on the counter, flat, unarmed, and I set mine near it. Bruised knuckles finally the color of a memory. When our fingers touch, it's not an event. It's a choice that doesn't argue with itself. On the window, steam blossoms where our cups breathe. The city writes with it, jagged strokes on cold glass, punctuation in raindrops. Outside, a scooter skims the puddles. Neon undresses and dresses itself on their wake. Do you miss it? I ask. What? Being clean. He thinks. The sign hums. Somewhere in the back, a shutter snicks because ghosts love choreography. No, he says. I miss certainty. Clean was just a costume. I huff a laugh that lives where my ribs can keep it safe. You wore it well. He gestures at the shelves. These all work? Not yet. They could. It's a nicer verb. He lets that sit. He's good at not rushing verbs. Chris, he says, finally. So what now? His mouth doesn't quite ask us. It tries the shape and respectfully stops. I swirl the coffee, watch the cream find a map. Now I fix small machines that teach light how to remember. Now I sell film to teenagers who want their parties to exist tomorrow. Now I sleep without a collar around my name and wake up before the kettle on purpose. Now I stop running until running is just exercise. He listens like the room is a witness. I suspect he's always listened like that. I just couldn't hear it from the other side of a chase. And you? I ask. He looks at the sign again. The reflection gives him back with less armor than a mirror would have, if it owed me money. Now, he says, I stand somewhere that doesn't need me to be a solution. Now I learn how to be the reason nothing breaks. He lifts his cup. I lift mine. Our fingers brush, the barest slide of heat through cardboard. The coffee steam fogs the window enough to turn the street into a painting and our faces into signatures. So, I say, light because heavy is a habit I'm trying to retire. Try not to tell me you put a tracker in this cup. He blinks slow. I did not. Growth all around. We drink. The door spring complains when the wind tests it. The cameras keep watch without seeing anything they don't have to. I bend behind the counter and come up with a small rectangle. Scuffed plastic, a tape door that sticks unless it's asked nicely. The old cassette player. The label is messy in a handwriting I can admit to now. Don't forget to laugh. I kept it, I say. Of course you did. The batteries surprise us by working. When I press play, the room fills with the soft hiss of repaired things, and a sound that was once my laugh looped as a dare. It's different now. Softer at the edges, less a challenge to a hunter, and more an answer to a question we kept dodging. We stand there and let it happen. The rain ticks the window like a typewriter, deciding on a better draft. The sign holds its hum. Out in the lane, a noodle shop shuts off its pink bones and replaces them with a sleepy blue. Somewhere above us, an apartment door opens. Somewhere below, a cat answers a dog the size of a rumor. What now? I ask again, quieter. Because the first now was for the city, and this one isn't. He tilts his head, and the cut on his cheek looks about done with anger. Now, Avery says, almost smiling, you live. And don't hack my refrigerator. No promises, I answer. And we both pretend that means I'll try. The tape clicks at the end and rolls back, ready to begin again. I let it. Some loops you keep, not because you're trapped, but because they know how to hold the right parts in place while the rest of you learns to move.